So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions.
Welcome to the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more all of it away to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swarts, and each and every episode we're joined by the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, or billionaires, and they share their secrets and insights with us so we can all make a bigger impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of North Carolina, and he is the expert on helping us to get private money for our deals, bypass the banks and get unlimited private money to fund your next real estate deal. Our guest is a nationally renowned real estate investor, faced frustrations in his initial investments due to large down payments, high origination fees, and restrictive rules imposed by banks. And the situation worsened when his bank suddenly cut off his funding during a market downturn. This prompted our guest to explore alternative investment strategies like buying properties subject to, using, and buying with lease options, and so much more. Let's talk about how to get private money for our next deal with our guest, Jay Conner. Jay, how we doing?
Brett, thank you so much for inviting me to come along and talk about what I'm so passionate and excited about, and that's private money for real estate deals. The reason I'm so excited about it, Brett, is because ever since I started attracting private money for my funding without ever asking anybody for money, all the way back in February of 2009, you know what? I've never missed out on a deal for not having the funding available and able to close deals within 7 days of going under contract.
Jay, that's incredible, and we're going to talk about that right now. Before we get to the art of finding and attracting and unlocking private capital for your next deal, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your focus?
Sure. Well, my wife, Carol Joy, and I, we live here in eastern North Carolina, and we started investing in single-family houses and flipping houses all the way back in 2003, before HGTV was even on the television. So we started back in 2003, 23 years ago. And Brett, those first 6 years, from 2003 until 2009, the only thing I knew to do to get funding for my real estate deals was go to the local bank. I had a line of credit. Back then, I didn't know anything about private money. In fact, if you had a decent credit score, you could get an unsecured line of credit. I had a $250,000 unsecured line of credit when I started out. And so for the first 6 years, I relied on institutional money, banks, mortgage companies, etc. But everything changed, Brett. Everything changed. In January 2009, I called up my banker. His name was Steve, and I thought I still had a line of credit there. I had 2 houses under contract to purchase, and I learned over the telephone that my line of credit had been closed with absolutely no notice to me. And I said, Steve, what are you telling me that my line of credit is closed? I got a great credit score, never been late on payments. We've done a ton of deals together. Why is the bank closing my line of credit? And Steve said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund these 2 deals. And so I hung up the phone, Brett. I sat here at my desk for a second, and I asked myself a very important question. And this question I'm going to share with you and your audience will help fix anybody's problem. I don't care if it's career, financial, relationships, doesn't matter. By the way, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity, I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. But it did become an opportunity because I wouldn't be here on your show unless this has happened. Here's the powerful question that I asked myself. I said, Jay, who do you know that can help fix your problem? You know, it's not how, it's who. And when I asked myself that question, I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship, a dear friend, know each other from church, gospel, a cappella singing events. He was investing in single-family houses in Greensboro, North Carolina at the same time. And I said, well, maybe Jeff can help me with my problem. And so I called up Jeff and I told him what I just told you. I'd been cut off from the banks. Jeff says, well, Jay, welcome to the club. I said, well, I'm not sure I want to be a member of that club, but what club are you talking about? He said, well, that's the club of experiencing the bank cutting you off with your line of credit. I said, well, Jeff, how are you going to get your deals funded? He said, well, have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. He said, have you ever heard of self-directed IRAs where people can take existing retirement funds, transfer them with no tax effect, no penalties, to a self-directed IRA company and then loan that money out to us real estate investors, and the interest we pay them is either tax deferred or tax free? I said, Jeff, I don't have a clue what in the world you are talking about. I said, what's private money? He said, well, I'm not really sure, but there's this gentleman down in Jacksonville, Florida, by the name of Ron LeGrand. I said, who's Ron LeGrand? He says, really, they don't know that either. He says, but Ron LeGrand can teach us about private money. I said, what is it? He said, Jay, I don't know, but Ron says we can get a lot of it really, really fast. I said, okay. So I went to my very first real estate investing conference seminar after I'd been in this business for 6 years. And I went there to learn about private money. And Brett, oh boy, did I ever learn about private money. I came back home here to Eastern North Carolina, and in less than 90 days, I was able to raise $2,150,000 in new funding, new private money available that I didn't have available to me before. And since that time, never missed out on a deal for not having the funding.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. By the way, you want to learn more about Jay Conner. It's spelled C-O-N-N-E-R. Just go to jayconner.com, jayconner.com, get private money for your next deals. Okay, great. Let's dive right into it. So Jay, what is the number one secret to raising and unlocking private capital for your deals?
The number one secret to getting all the money you'd ever want for your deals without ever asking for it is owning the real estate between your ears. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm talking about the number one secret is having the right mindset. So let me drill down on what the right mindset is. First of all, one big mistake that real estate investors make is they've heard this stupid advice to go get a deal under contract. Well, let me ask you, Brett, have you ever heard the guru stand on stage and say, oh, just go get the deal under contract, the money will show up?
Yes.
Yeah, that's insane. That makes no sense. I mean, you get a deal on a contract, is a drone going to fly over your front door and drop a bag of money? Because, you know, they'll say money finds good deals, right? You've probably heard that.
Right.
Money finds it. Yeah, that's stupid too. Has money got legs that's running around looking for deals? No. It seems to make sense to me, Brett, in a very contrarian viewpoint. Get the money lined up first. There's always going to be deals. There's always going to be deals, right? So that's the first part of the mindset. I mean, the worst time to be raising private money is when you need it for a deal. That's the worst time. Another part of the mindset, and I really had to get my mind wrapped around this, Brett. You know, the traditional way to think about borrowing money, the traditional way to think about it is whoever's loaning the money makes the rules. That's all we've been exposed to. Whoever's loaning the money is the underwriter. Whoever's loaning the money sets the interest rate. the frequency of payments, the length of the note. Well, there's the mindset you got to shift 180 degrees, because guess what? In my world, and my thousands of students and clients that have worked with me, the mind shift is we make the rules. We're not asking for a mortgage. We're not asking for a loan. We're offering an opportunity. That's the big mind shift right there. You see, Carol Joy and I, we've had 47 private lenders funding our deals over all these years. And you know what's interesting, Brett? Not one of them ever heard of private money. None of them ever heard of private lending. None of them ever heard of self-directed IRAs until I did what? Until I put on my teacher hat, which says private money teacher. So that's the next big part of the mindset. View yourself as an educator. None of these people, none of these 47 people, they're ordinary people loaning money out to us from their investment capital and or their retirement funds. So view yourself as having a servant's heart that is exposing ordinary people in your network to this opportunity. And so, you know, we teach the opportunity. The interest rate, it's 8% across the board, 8%. No origination fees. We don't borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value. I didn't say 75% of the purchase price. We always bring home a big check when we purchase a property without taking any of our own money to the closing table. And so we teach and share the opportunity, and then they tell us how much they got to work with. Do they want to use retirement funds? We'll introduce them to our self-directed IRA company that we recommend all of our new private lenders to. They'll move their money over if they're using retirement funds. And then, Brett, we call them up with what we call the good news phone call. And the good news phone call is I'm calling them to just simply deliver, because I told them I'd put their money to work to get it invested just as soon as possible. And you know, Brett, we never ask for money. Here's another part of the mindset. Separate the conversations between exposing someone to this opportunity to become a private lender and then having a deal for them to fund. Desperation has a smell to it, right? So we never talk about a deal that we need funded in that initial conversation. So it's the educating, teaching. They tell us how much they want to invest, and then we come back to them with the good news phone call. I'm going to give the script right now, Brett, and then I'm going to turn it back to you. Here is the exact script of exactly what to say when you've got a deal for your private lender to fund. So the best way I can do this is with a little bit of a role play. So Brett, let's say that you are one of my new private lenders. We've known each other. Let's say we go to church together, whatever. We've known each other for some time. I've taught you, I've educated you on the opportunity. You love it. And let's say that you had $150,000 collecting dust in an old 401k at a previous employer. And so you have told me you want to invest $150,000. You like the sound of an 8% return. And so let's also assume I've introduced you to my self-directed IRA company and rep. And let's say you've moved that $150,000 over to the self-directed IRA, and you're waiting for me to deliver on my promise, which is putting your money to work and be invested as soon as possible. So I call you up, you answer the phone, we have a little chit chat, and here's exactly what I say. I say, Brett, I got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house in Newport, North Carolina under contract with an after repaired value of $200,000. Now the funding required matches up to what you have at the self-directed IRA company. That's $150,000. And closing is going to be next Wednesday, so you'll need to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney's trust account by next Tuesday. I'm going to have my real estate attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the conversation. The most stupid thing I could do is say, Brett, do you want to fund the deal? Of course you want to fund the deal for 3 big reasons. Number one, you loved the program and you trusted me to move your $150,000 over to the self-directed IRA. Secondly, you're ecstatic to fund my deal because you know I'm not going to bring a deal for you to fund that doesn't match the criteria of the underwriting that I already taught you. I already taught you I'm not going to borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value. I told you in the good news phone call that the after repaired value is $200,000 and I'm going to borrow $150,000, which is 75%. And thirdly, Brett is ecstatic to fund my deal because he's not making any money until I get his money invested. So can you start to see the progression of introducing, educating the opportunity, the private lenders excited, they want to get involved, and then you're simply delivering on your promise and having a deal for them to fund.
Jay, I'm ready to go. I absolutely can. And by the way, I took tons of notes here, and I hope you did too, anyone listening out there. And I love how simple you make it, and you've broken it down here. Just to clarify the after repair value, right? And so if it was $1 million, let's say, was the after repair value, you would only loan, or take a loan out of $750,000. And then what is the average time that it takes for these deals to turn over and flip and the money to come back? What does that look like, Jay?
Depending on the scope of the renovation, because most of these houses that we buy are in distress. They do need renovation. And typically from the time we close on it and the general contractor gets there and finishes it, and then we put it on the market to sell, I mean, we turn these homes into looking like brand new homes, smelling brand new, looking brand new. So from start to finish, it could be 9 months, on the long end. Okay, good.
And then the 75%, I'm curious, maybe it was 65 at one point, maybe it was 85 at one point. How did you settle on the 75?
Well, 75% gives the private lender a really, really nice equity cushion between what the after repaired value is versus what we're going to borrow. Now, when we borrow that money, we're going to be bringing home a big check when we purchase because we're buying it at a steep discount. I mean, we'll buy these properties regularly at, say, 50% of the after repaired value. So let's say in that $200,000 after repaired value scenario, let's say I buy it for $100,000. I borrow $150,000. I'm bringing home a $50,000 check, but the majority of that $50,000 check is going to be used for the renovation.
That makes perfect sense. And it's about 9 to 12 months later, that property will likely be finished and sold, and then they'll get paid back their money plus 8% return and rinse, wash, repeat. Is that a fair summary?
That's it.
That's fantastic, Jay. And how many houses have you done at this point?
Over 500.
That's fantastic. And then how many repeat clients, if you will, or investors that are loaning you money?
So we've had 47 in totality. But right now at any given time, we'll be using about 20 or so private lenders' money. And we just rinse and repeat all the time. Go do a deal, pay them off, go do another deal, pay them off, etc.
Beautiful. Do they need to be accredited investors?
No, that's a great question. And here's why that's a great question. They do not have to be an accredited investor because we're not doing what's called syndication. So we have not created a fund for the private lenders or investors to invest in. Everything we do in single-family houses, the slang is called one-offs. So what's a one-off? That means you have a private lender, maybe a couple of private lenders that are funding a deal. They each get their own promissory note. They get their own deed of trust. Most people call it a mortgage. It's a deed of trust here in North Carolina. So all the deals we do is what's called asset-backed debt. Asset-backed debt. So therefore, anybody can be a private lender. It does not have to be an accredited investor.
Excellent. And then is it a joint venture LLCs? Each is own individual entity that's owning this, or what is the entity that owns each of these assets?
Yeah, so I have two LLCs. One LLC is for the flips, and the other LLC is for the buy and holds. So most of them that we do are flips. And so what you just asked also triggers a very, very important point. The private lender does not own any of the property, right? They are the bank. They're getting the same security, the same protection as any bank or mortgage company would get. So they're getting the promissory note, they're getting the deed of trust, they're named on the insurance policy as the mortgagee, additionally insured on the title policy. So it's the same protection that the local bank would get.
Oh, excellent. And they're just a first. They're all, if there's 4 different lenders, they're all equally, let's say put 100 into a $400,000 loan need. They're each in an equal position.
Not correct. There's some people that do share the first positions on a deed of trust, but we disclose to our private lenders what position they are in. So if you've got 2 private lenders, you're going to have one in first position, and whoever's got the larger amount of money loaned would be in first position for the purchase. And then there may be a secondary private lender that's maybe loaning money for the rehab part of the deal, and they'd be disclosed in second position or a junior lien.
Okay, curious. Is that just required to do it in that order, or what makes it one needs to be first versus the second, or why is that, Jay?
Yeah, well, that's typically what we do here in North Carolina.
Okay.
And so the second position, since the lender, the private lender in second position, is at a higher risk, I pay them 10%.
Oh, okay.
instead of 8%. Because, if I didn't pay them, if the second position is going to foreclose, then for them to be made whole, they have to inherit that first position deed of trust.
Okay.
Of course, in all these years, nobody's ever had to foreclose on us.
Excellent. Have you ever had to throw in your own money on a deal that just went haywire, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to make them whole. I'll come out of my pocket, or how's it been, Jay, in all these years?
Well, when you've rehabbed over 500 houses, none of them come in on budget, right, on the renovation. And, if a deal goes sideways and I have to put my money into it, that's why 100% of our private lenders have always received 100% of the interest that they were anticipating.
Okay, good. So maybe, sometimes things go a little haywire and you'll step in to make sure that you keep that track record. By the way, speaking with Jay Conner, everybody, the Private Money Authority, he has a podcast, Raising Private Money Show, a real estate investing show. And you can find him by going to jconner.com. It's Conner spelled CONNER.com. I think about Sarah Connor. I'm not sure how it's spelled, but Terminator. And I guess some kids, and they're asking if they can watch part 1. I'm like, you cannot watch part 1. Part 2, maybe, you're a little bit older. Part 1 is pretty intense. But I don't know. It's just, I want to hear Connor. I don't know if you've ever got this before, Jay, but that's a little side tangent. But let's not even go there. So okay, I want to shift a little bit, Jay, because I love the concept of what you're talking about here. Okay, and I love the ability to get excess cash on cash return versus a lot of equity deals, which have a lot of risk, a lot of toilets, trash, termites, a lot of management, and people a lot of times just want what's called truly passive income. They want 8%, 10% cash flow just coming in and just let it show up, Jay. I want to be Kenny Chesney on the beach playing my guitar, no shoes, no shirt, no problem. And I want to just be playing my guitar, know that Jay's doing the flips, the money's showing up, it's consistent, it's durable, it's tied to a first or a second on a property. He's done 500 of them. And I'm going to get paid in about 9 to 12 months, and I'm feeling good about that, right? And I like that. I can see, touch, and feel the property if I want to go to it. All of that's checking out great. So we use an installment sale, which is a promissory note with a trust for people to exit large real estate assets, large businesses, large primary homes, large Bitcoin or stock positions. But Jay, without any need for a 1031 exchange. Okay, so I will call someone and I'll say, hey, Mr. Seller, sounds like you're going to be exiting this large property. Are you excited to pay 20 to 50% in tax? And they say, Jay, no, Brett, I don't want to do that. And I said, well, are you excited to overpay for a 1031 property in a short period of time? And they say, no, I don't want to do that. And they go, I want to put stuff into private credit. I want to put stuff into as double-digit cash on cash returns. I don't want to overpay for properties and deal with the toilets, the trash, the termites. And I've been trying to get to that 4th quadrant of Robert Kiyosaki's quadrant. I haven't been able to get there because this 1031 just keeps keeping me in the same loop. And so I present to them a strategy, which is an installment sale with the trust, using a promissory note that they receive payments back from this trust after they sell it to this trust, and they don't pay any tax until they take payment. Now we have the buyer lined up, and it's a 3-party transaction, and the smoke clears, and the seller's left with the promissory note, and the funds are sitting at Charles Schwab. But the beauty, Jay, like a self-directed IRA, it can go back into alternative deals that are not typically 1031 eligible. So what I'm getting at here is perhaps there's an opportunity for us to do even larger scale opportunities. I'm curious how big you do on your deals. And it's a beautiful thing, because actually the last couple of years, most of our stuff, Jay, we've done has been real estate debt, because equity has been so expensive, okay? Meaning the values versus the interest rates and the cap rates just weren't there. The arbitrage wasn't there. And if people want to learn more about this, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. But I'm curious, Jay, have you heard of a way, besides what I just said, to defer tax on the sale of any asset of any kind and diversify into asset investments like yours, all tax deferred, without using a 1031 exchange?
Yeah, the only other way that I have heard of is what I mentioned at the top of the show, and that is using retirement funds in a self-directed IRA account. And if they have a Roth IRA, of course that IRA is after tax dollars, so all the gains are tax-free using a Roth IRA in a self-directed IRA company. One thing I love to share with investors, I say, look, here's a creative way you can use your Roth IRA. You can open up your self-directed IRA company with a $100 Roth IRA. You can go get a real estate deal get an option on it, and pay $100 from your self-directed Roth IRA account, and then you can sell that option and get an assignment fee, say for $20,000, and sell that option, assign that option to another real estate investor. And guess what? Your Roth IRA just made $20,000 tax-free, because because there's no limit to the profit that Roth IRA can make, because it's all after-tax dollars.
I love it. Yeah, all this is great. I call this tax flow, not just cash flow, right? And most people just focus on cash flow. They're not thinking about tax flow. Roth are fantastic for that. And then mixed with good cash flow. You got to have both, right? You got to have good tax flow, good cash flow, mixed and combined. Jay, this has been excellent. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm not sure I am, but I do have my seatbelt on, so I'll give it a try.
All right. Knowing what you know now, Jay, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Follow your passion now. Don't wait. Life is too short not to start doing what you are interested in doing and what you think you would love to do.
Fantastic. Question number 2. Number 1 book you've recommended the most in the past year?
University of Success by Og Mandino. It changed my life when I was 24 years old.
Excellent. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
What am I most curious? Well, that's a hard question, Brett, because I'm curious about everything, right? So curious. I'm curious about how my new AI agent is going to start outbound calling and having casual conversations with everybody on my email list, inviting them to my upcoming private money conference.
Hey, that's cool. When is the private money conference happening? Yep. And what are the details in case someone's listening and wants to get there?
Sure. So the private money conference, there's not another conference like it on the planet. You can check it out at www.theprivatemoneyconference.com. And it's June 10, 11, and 12. It's a $3,000 event for you and a guest. But since you are here at Brett's show, that URL I just gave out, theprivatemoneyconference.com, you get to come for a registration fee of $97 for you and a guest.
Fantastic. Check that out, everybody. Theprivatemoneyconference.com, theprivatemoneyconference.com, June 10th to 12th. Next question. Number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Successes are scheduled, quote unquote, meaning don't try to run your day and your week by the seat of your pants. schedule on your calendar the behaviors and the task to do that will get you to where you want to be.
Simple enough. I love it. It's great. Last question, and we'll wrap it up, Jay. After all your success, helping all the clients you've helped build wealth in a meaningful way, also all the houses that you've flipped and helped to create great housing for folks, what is the best way that you found to stay centered in your values and keep a stewardship mindset over ownership?
Being very involved in 2 masterminds. And the reason that has kept me centered is because I'm staying centered around people that have like-minded faith, like-minded core values, and we challenge each other, but we keep it centered with a servant's heart. Masterminds.
Jay Conner, this has been amazing. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insight. I can tell why you're the authority on private money, and I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts and talents to help more and more people create and preserve wealth, help with the housing crisis, all of it, what you're doing. Thank you. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
The best place to find me is to take advantage of my free gift, because it will connect you right to me. And my free gift is my private money $1 million scripts. So I've got a collection of exactly what to say to potential private lenders. And you can download my very first script. It's called the Curiosity Opener. And you can download that private money script at www.jayconner.com/scripts. jayconner.com/scripts. And you'll have that PDF right there in your hand, and you'll be connected with me.
Phenomenal. Thank you, Jay. I also want to thank all of our listeners, you who are out there listening and are watching or viewing this on our YouTube channels. This is another episode of the Building to Billions podcast, also Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. I want to encourage you to take action today. Hey, we're on this journey with you to scale it from millions to billions. We can give more all the way to help MVPs, the most vulnerable people. And I want you to connect with Jay if you're interested in private money, or someone that you might be interested in private money and you're raising capital or bringing capital to deals. Not raising because not syndicating, but bringing capital to unique one-off deals for fix and flips, small, or even larger deals. Just listen to Jay. He's the authority on that. And of course, if you have a large exit coming up, we want to encourage you to pick up the book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, right? You spend 10,000 hours building your business or pouring into your real estate. If you spend a couple hours with us, you can defer the tax. You can build the wealth in a meaningful way. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Works for Bitcoin, businesses, real estate. Needs to be $1 million plus, larger deals. capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. I'm Brett Swarts, and I appreciate you listening or watching out there, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.